showing up, everybody for coming out, everybody that decided to come and join us this evening. And it's a special day and a great afternoon. For me, you have all the candidates to show up except one. And to have, all my people in the community that's interested in making a change in the community and to help see us elect the right person for the right job to lead us forward and not to take us backwards. So thank you so much. Give yourself a round of applause for being here. And we do ready for stuff. So before we get started, we're going to do a stand-up exercise to where there's going to be 3 things on the topic board. And, once I go ahead and explain these 3 things, 1 would be if you're a registered voter, 2, if you live in District 5, and 3, if you want to make a change in the community. So please, stand up if you are a registered voter. Okay. I see more registered voters now. So you know what that means? We have a responsibility, and we have an obligation to use our vote to the fullest of the capabilities that we can and to make the change that we want to see in our community. Can you please take a seat?
Thanks, Dave.
The second one is stand if you live in District 5. All right. So you know what that means? This is your home, this is where you come from, this is where you live, this is where your children roam, this is where your children go to school, this is where you come in, looking for, opportunities, jobs, and a better life. Please sit down. The third, last but not least, please stand if you want to make a change in our community. Everybody. All right, please take a seat. Before every candidate introduce themselves, I would like to take this time to share with you my life story of where I'm at, where I've been, and where I plan to go. My name is Harold Bendis. I've been an active member in the community for as long as I can remember. I went to school at Miami Northwestern and graduated from Miami Edison. I played football. Okay, we come from the same place, man. But I played football, Optimus, as a child growing up. Playing Optimus ball for Tecosi Park, right on 62nd Street. And then most recently, I've been fighting to engage the people that's unengaged. And to show them the importance of getting involved, the importance of impacting legislation, so that way we can see and manifest the laws and policy that can help us ensure a better way of life and a better way of living. My challenge and my struggle is a common struggle and a constant fight. Growing up in Liberty City, where the sounds of guns and police sirens are going off every day, like the ice cream man and the ice cream truck. Every day there's a murder, every day there's an act of crime, every day there's an act of violence. Another cold case, another childless mother. That's our reality in Liberty City. Just another casualty is our reality. As a young black man, as hard as it is already, you have more hate, doubt, and discrimination than love and support, both in the neighborhoods and in the eyes of government officials and the police. Plus, for a man or woman coming back into society from prison is even harder. Because now you have your rights taken away. You're not able to vote, you're not able to live out the Bill of Rights, you're not able to access government benefits, such as public housing. In most cases, you're not able to get funding to go back to school and to further your education. And then psychologically, the conditions of confinement can do one or two things. It can make you stronger, or it can make you stressed and depressed, and not wanting to care about anything that's going on in your government, or have a lot of anger and a lot of fuel frustration towards the government officials. Just imagine being locked away in a cage like an animal. Away from those you love and care deeply about. Away from relatives, children, friends, and girlfriends, and the rest of society. Within those walls, I had to find my own freedom. I had to find my own peace. With a better vision and a better understanding, I wanted to better myself and the lives of those around me. I dedicated myself to working out and eating healthy on a daily basis, reading to expand my knowledge and education. Other while still educating myself to rise above and beyond our conditions to accomplish our shared mission, which is to help the home I came from, here in Liberty City, District 5. Make our lives more meaningful, and by making our community a better place to live. I have taken a steady path to becoming the man I want to be. After serving a short trip to prison, I got out and found an organization by the name of Florida New Majority. Florida New Majority gave me a reason, gave me a purpose. A reason to fight and to continue fighting. Florida New Majority is a statewide voter participation organization working to empower women, African Americans, Latinos, new immigrant communities, and young people to fully participate in the political process towards a fair and vibrant democracy in Florida. We believe in a democracy where people can be their whole selves. We train grassroots citizens to be leaders, mobilize communities to vote, educate the public to share our values, and inspire Floridians to take action towards their dreams, aspirations, through deep partnerships with organizations, leaders, and networks. We achieve concrete results in our daily lives. We organize people, ideas, resources to build a powerful new vision for Florida's new majority. Florida New Majority gave me a way to escape away from the chaos, the anger, the frustration, and gave me the motivation to keep on going on. To learn, to educate, facilitate my mental capabilities to my fullest ability. From political engagement, from going out canvassing in the neighborhoods, in Miami, the Liberty Cities, the Little Haiti, Little Havana, Wynwood, Attapata, all across Miami. I've been there. From protesting to fighting for the rights of everyday citizens, into the field of politics where there's a high demand for new leaders, with integrity, with the fearlessness in their hearts, to make the change that we want to see being made. Because literally, there are people dying in the streets for the change, for the opportunity, for a meaning, for a purpose, to live them lives to the fullest of their ability. Some people just need an opportunity, some people just need a shot. And Florida Majority gave me the opportunity, and they gave me that shot. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you, Florida Majority. Thank you, friends and family. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you to the ones I wished I was here to share this moment with me. And continue to keep on going and always remember, a quitter never wins and a winner never quits. Thank you for listening to my story.
Give it up for Harold one more time. All right, I want to thank everybody for coming out. My name is Danilo. I'm lead organizer at Florida New Majority. And like Harold, I'm a resident of District 5. I was born in Nicaragua. I came to this country when I was 5 years old, with my mom who was over there, across the border with her. So The first place we moved to was Overtown. I went to Frederick Douglass Elementary, and then we lived in East Havana for a while, and we've been living in Liberty City, just 7 blocks from here, for about 15 years. And I got my first taste of activism. I'm not sure if some of you here might be familiar with it, with the Curry-Taylor Homeowners Association. I was 19 years old, and there was a huge age gap because everybody else was a little bit older than I was. But it really got me involved into wanting to make a difference in my community, from cleaning up the streets, from getting to know my neighbors, and then I started to do community organizing at a volunteer level, and then I started organizing restaurant workers for things like racism that was happening in the restaurants, from wage theft. And then I found myself with Florida New Majority organizing for civic participation in communities like District 5. And if I can get just a round, I'm not going to make you stand up, but one of the reasons we're hosting this forum is because we want transparent local government. If you think that City of Miami has transparent local government, raise your hand. Wow. That's precisely one reason why we want to host debates like these. That's precisely one reason why we want to engage the community and grow in membership, because we don't have transparency. And Florida New Majority is not campaigning for a candidate. And I can repeat that again. Florida New Majority is not campaigning for anybody up here. Florida New Majority is campaigning for the community. Florida New Majority is an organization that is always here year-round. We've been canvassing the streets of District 5, and they think we're with candidates. And they tell us, you know my address, you know my name, you know my party affiliation, you know my age, but I never see you. And it takes a little bit of a conversation of back and forth. Listen, we're not with the candidates. We're here to do issue IDs and to get you involved. Democracy is not a spectator sport. You know, this is something that we have to get involved in. This is something that we have to make a difference in. And the reason we're getting involved in District 5, it's where we've been organizing for a long time. You know, sometimes with a little bit of funds, but a lot of heart and volunteers. And little by little, we want to start making a political difference and putting people in power that are going to be accountable to the community. So without further ado, I'm going to bring up someone right before we get into the debate part of this. And he's going to share a poem with us. And if Annie Thomas can come up here and join us. So once again, can I hear it one more time? I almost didn't hear it.
So yeah, I'm not really good. You know, we're doing my poetry out loud too much. It's more private usually, but Daniel called me up last minute, asked me to do this. And how could I refuse? You know, it doesn't take no for an answer. Alright. Emotions flow like oceans. Eyes are drained where tear falls like rain. Words are said. All you feel is dread. From screams and shouts to let me out. People are soaring while others are mourning. You feel like you just been napped, but the truth is, you've been mentally trapped. You would think I mean a fight when I'm talking about our society's sight. You see, we are prisoners of our mind until we learn to find. But what are we finding? We're finding our peace of mind. We are finding the true injustice as it starts to align. We are finding our mental liberation and ending our mental incarceration. I declare you all mentally free.
Can I actually request some finger snaps for that? That was real good. So there's a lot of people from different organizations here tonight. Let's do a quick popcorn shout out. If your organization is here, just shout it out. Let us know who's in the room, and we'll give a round of applause for you.
How are you?
How are you? Give it up. All right, who else is in the room?
Miami-Dade Young Democrats.
The who?
Miami-Dade Young Democrats.
All right.
Citizens against traffic lights. Ciudadanos contra la camarita.
South Florida Boys for Work and Family.
else out there?
Bayside Residents Association.
East Side Residents Association.
Bayside.
Bayside Residents Association. All right.
Commissioner Audrey Edmonds.
All right.
Citizens for a Healthy Miami-Dade, running the Jackson Bond to repair the hospital.
All right. Prepare the hospital. All right. Thank you. Is there anybody else out there who wants to say something about their organization?
Booker T. Washington High School Alumni Association.
I was there too. So just to let you know, we started canvassing District 5 about a month ago, and what we're trying to do here today is get community members involved in a process where we hear the candidates, we hear what they have to say, and then later, figure out who we're going to be supporting. And we want you to join with FNM if you want to be part of our endorsement process. We're going to be meeting tomorrow with FNM members and partner members to select a candidate that we will be endorsing. And the reason why it's very important, and I thank the candidates for coming out tonight, because we actually go out and do voter contacts, voter engagement. In a month, we've contacted 1,537 voters attempts. 1,537 voter attempts, and had 720 conversations with people in the community. And not to put anybody out there as far as organizations and institutions, but when we endorse, we go out and knock doors. Boots are on the grounds, and it's for the community. It's not for the candidate. It's for the community, because oftentimes, as we saw here today, I think there was like half a hand that went up when they said that their city is a transparent city when it comes to doing local politics. And it's very important. Coming up next year, we have a $523.59 million budget. And that's something that folks that are running for candidate are going to have a choice in how they advocate for District 5. So, without more delay, I'm going to introduce a young brother that I met recently that I'm already, he doesn't know this yet, but I'm already looking up to him. And he's someone that's actually Liberty City's own, someone that's done a lot for the community already, and he's actually the vice president of the Miami-Dade Young Democrats. So help me in welcoming Aaron. And Aaron's going to be helping us today in moderating, and he'll tell you the ground rules, he'll tell you the process of the questions. And just before I go, we passed out some index cards. If you have questions, please fill them out. Put your name on the question so we can know who it's coming from. And if Becca and Darnell could stand up, raise your hand. Please pass your questions to Becca and Darnell. And welcome again.
So quiet here. Good evening, folks. Good evening. That was pretty lame. Let's try that one. I said good evening. Good evening. Y'all should get excited here. I know the candidates are excited. We're about less than 20 days out from getting this process over with, so I know everybody here is happy. Like most of you here, I am also a resident and a lifelong member of District 5. Grew up on 51st and 18th. Charles Hadley Park, the whole nine. And I'm excited to be here this evening. I don't know about y'all, but we're looking at our community moving in a different direction within these next 20 days. And before we even get anything started, I want to actually preface this all by just simply giving a round of applause to all the folks that have chosen to step up into these leadership roles to lead this community in this direction. At the end of the day, we look at these political figures, and we know it comes with a title. It definitely comes with its perks, but it's also a sacrifice. And I mean, at the end of the day, it's public service. And even along the campaign trail, there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that you guys put into this process. So we have to commend you all for what you all do. So as a voter, I'm saying thank you in advance. I have my absentee ballot sitting on the table at home, so I'm actually waiting to hear what y'all got to say this evening. But let's get to it. It is Thursday. For y'all that watch Scandal, I know you want to get home and watch it. UM fans, we got a game at 7:30 tonight. I know Brother Hardiman is a proud alum, so we want to make sure we get him out of here to watch the beat up on North Carolina. That's the number 10 ranked University of Miami, by the way. So I'm gonna put that out there.
Okay.
All right, so let's get to it, guys. So I just want to briefly go over the ground rules and the agenda for today's debate. Again, we don't want to keep you guys in here long. We definitely want to move this along quite fast and get folks in and out the door, but also that you walk home with, go home with good information to help you in the process of deciding who you're going to bubble in that box for on that ballot. All right. So just to let you know, the agenda is going to work as follows. We're going to do candidate introductions. These are going to be 3 minutes each. We're going to allow each of you to give a chance to talk about yourself, your vision for the district, and also maybe the disadvantage that you face in this campaign. We want honesty, all right? Then we're going to move on to some of the F&M, the Florida New Majority, and partner questions. There's 4 questions we're going to ask. Everyone's going to get a chance to respond. Then we're going to do 3 audience questions, and then at the very end of all of this, I'll be asking the question of my choice to the candidates that are here. All right? Does that work for y'all? Candidates? That's cool? All right. So, kind of lost myself on the agenda here. Give me a second. I apologize. I got like 80 papers on this desk, and I don't know.
All right, Seth.
All right, so let's get into the ground rules. So, essentially, each candidate is going to be allowed 3 minutes for introductions. Like I said this already, there's an opportunity to tell about yourself, campaign, your vision, all that good stuff. The partnership questions, the audience questions, moderator questions. Now, personally for me, and I don't know how y'all feel, it's a perfect opportunity to hear each candidate's vision for this community. I'm not a fan of mudslinging personally. To me, that's counterproductive from the reason why we're here. It's good that you can sit there and say something about somebody else, but I don't want to hear that. I want to hear what is your plan, your vision, what you see the potential for this community's future is. And maybe that's just me. You know, applause, snap your fingers if you feel the same way. Just a few amen corners. I don't know how y'all want to agree with me here, but we want to make sure we're focusing on getting the information out, focusing on the vision, and staying positive throughout this. And at the same time, I'll also ask that, you know, any reactions from the audience that we keep them to a minimum. I understand that some things may incite us, but, you know, let's try to keep it under control. You know, we can do the little amen corner, but we don't want to take up too much time because, again, scan do a UM football game tonight. I want to get out of here, all right? So, with no further ado, we're going to get into the first round of questions. Now, to let you know how this is going to work, with each question that we ask, we're going to start, Mr. Malone, you're going to take the first question. With each question we ask, every candidate is going to be given a minute to respond to the question. We're going to have our timekeeper here, Ms. Lily Bach, Madam President of the Miami-Dade Democrats, by the way. She's going to be the timekeeper. Everybody's going to get a minute to respond to the questions. Now, once everyone responds, the first person to actually respond to the question will be given a minute for rebuttal. So essentially what's going to happen is that, okay, this is definitely not for me. Someone else will take the questions, but I appreciate that. So everyone's going to get a chance to reply to the questions. Everyone gets a minute to reply. The first person to actually respond then gets a minute rebuttal to the responses of the other candidates, okay? And we're going to do that each time. So for example, Mr. Malone will start, Mr. Hardiman will go, Ms. Collier will go, and then Mr. Malone will be given a minute to rebuttal the first 2 responses of the other candidates. And then on the second question, we'll go in the other order with Brother Hardiman starting, and then you'll also be able to give a response after the fact, okay? So are we good, folks? Everybody understand? Yeah. All right, cool. Candidates, we're good? Good. All right, let's get this started. So, question 1, and this is starting with you. Oh, I'm so sorry. Well, I'm sorry. Question. Introductions. My apologies. So, Madam Timekeeper, we're going to give everybody 3 minutes to give an introduction. Again, we want to focus on your vision for the district. Talk about yourself, and you know, I know it's a little unorthodox, but you know, any disadvantages you may feel like you face in this campaign, in this race. And we're going to start with Brother Young. Huh? Okay, we're going to be deferring to Ms. Collier.
Thank you, Dr. Malone. I appreciate that. Good evening to everyone. You know, I just want to say thank you to Florida New Majority because you guys are awesome for putting this together. And then especially to the Young Democrats for doing this as well. And I also want to thank all the other groups that are here tonight because, don't count this as my time. Okay, I also want to thank all the other groups that are here tonight because all of you are absolutely amazing as well. You know, because you came together, which is a part of the theme for why I'm running. Moving forward together. moving forward together. And in 4 years, once I'm elected, I want to see a community that is truly moving forward together. I want to see child death rates in the city of Miami decreased by at least 7%. I want to see the unemployment rate, and y'all need to applaud on this one, decreased, especially for young men in this community, by at least 20%. And you know how that's done? That's done by bringing jobs to this community through putting together innovative programs that bring about economic development. One of the things that must happen is that we must have community benefits plans that really work for the residents of District 5. And what do I mean by community benefits plan? Developers come in here every day, build all kinds of great and wonderful stuff. You know who benefits from it? Developers. You know who does not benefit from it? Us. One of the things that I'm going to make sure is in place is a community benefit plan that includes at least 40% of jobs that come into development, that comes into this community, must come from residents, must be given to residents of this community. That's critical, because you know who hires us? We do. Not other folks, we do. So I'm expecting and knowing that that is the #1 thing that we're going to do. The other things that I want are safe and secure communities. Safety. When I walk, and I walk every single day, I'm not going to tell you how many hours, but it's a bunch of them, enough to lose 14 pounds. I visit homes that have locks, bars, alarms, dogs, and a gun. That's scary. When you have to live like that, we've got to do better. We can do better. We must do better. And that starts with a new way of policing in this community. And we can do it. I've done it before when I worked for Miami-Dade Housing Agency. Brought in $17 million a year for grants for policing differently.
Thank you, Mr. And next up, we're going to have Mr. Keon Harvey. Let's let him get a position before we start the 3 minutes.
Good evening. Good evening. When I heard Brother Harold speak, I don't know where he is now, it really got me thinking about who this community is made up of. And I thought about myself. Because just like Mr. Harold, I was born in Liberty City, Scott Projects. My grandmother had 15 children, and we were on government welfare. And along with those 15 children were another 5 individuals that were staying inside that house. And I was one of them. And as I watched my friends die next to me, as I watched my friends become arrested and lose their lives to what this community said was going to happen to the majority of the young black men in this community, I prayed about it. And it was through the prayers that I'm sure that this young man did in his life that I was able to move forward. Because just like him, I was trapped in this community where violence was rampant. But because of people and organizations like this, because of this very part, I pushed my way through graduating from Florida A&M University with my bachelor's and master's in business. You see, but when I came back to my hometown, I said that I wanted to make a difference. And so I began helping elderly people with conditions that they were suffering from in this community. But that wasn't enough. So I went on to law school and graduated from the University of Miami. And ever since then, I've been serving this community as an assistant public defender. And why is that important? Because I represent young men like him. Young men that don't have a voice in this community. Young men like my father was when he was taken away from my family for 20 years. And he gets out next year. You see, I want to make a difference in this community because I know what it means to be a man without a voice. So when we talk about my vision for this community, I envision young men like him having jobs. When I think about my vision for this community, on first court, they're dying. On first place, they are dying. And there are seniors all around that are trapped in drug holes every single day of this life. So don't let people believe or make you believe that there's no money that needs to be invested in those communities, because that's not true. You see, those communities need to thrive, just like our Baysides. Those communities need to have residents inside of them that pay taxes and are happy to live in the city of Miami. That's what this community deserves. This community deserves safe communities where people can walk their dogs, where people can have their children play on the parks. This community deserves vision, and that's what it takes to move this community forward. We are on the bubble of making something great happen in the city of Miami, and it takes courage, and it takes advocacy, and it takes heart, and it takes dedication, and that's what I'm bringing to this race. All of those things to make this community better. Thank you very much.
Mr. Robert Malone. Dr. Robert Malone.
It's no problem. Again, my name is Dr. Malone, and I'm a candidate for City of Miami Commission, and I see a lot of my friends and family up here. I want to thank them for coming out, my mom, my sister, and my cousin, and also my old coach. It's in the back, Coach Jones. Let me say this. I am a candidate for City of Miami Commission, and I've been in this community all my life. I graduated from Miami Edison Senior High School, and every single time we came back, every time, we were obligated to come back and give back to the young men playing basketball for the high school. We looked out for those young men from Liberty City, Overtown, and Little Haiti. This is what we were obligated to do. This is not something that I had a job. This was something that I did, that we had an obligation to do that. Horace Mann said that we should be ashamed to die until we have won some victory for humanity. And that's what this campaign is about. Doing something for humanity. When the man asks you, is the government transparent, and no one raised their hand, this is the problem. This continues to be the problem. And I work with that system every single day as president of the Hadley Park Homeowners Association. I talk about code enforcement. I talk about streets. I talk about crime. I go to meetings. I'm not scared to speak truth to power. I write letters to the editor. I've been there. I don't have to be talking about it. I've done it. It is something that we are obligated to do to bring this city of Miami up, especially District 5. I work at Miami-Jackson Senior High School, and I work with young men. And I tell them everything, that you have to aspire to be great. That there is no other way of doing things. And I want to be that type of person that I can help. The city of Miami District 5 needs help. For decades, we've been suffering. We suffered with the Marlins Stadium. We suffered with $40 million our calculation area. And we're suffering with a Security and Exchange Commission lawsuit. Money being switched from one account to the next. It is time for change. Not an advocate, not a bureaucrat, not a career politician, somebody who cares about this community, who's been there and done that. I am Dr. Malone, and I'm a candidate for City of Miami Commission. Thank you.
We appreciate you keeping that under 3 minutes, actually, so appreciate that. All right, so, now we're going to get into why we're here. Get a chance to ask some questions about issues that are facing District 5, and to get to hear from the candidates their vision on how we combat these problems. Now, Dr. Malone, you can't defer this, and I'm starting with you this time, okay? That's cool? Okay, all right, cool. All right, so, as we know, and obviously this isn't the greatest thing, but District 5 has its share of problems in terms of crime and violence within the community. And we also, not even just with that, the amount of offenders we have in this community that are kind of black labeled for years and years on end, that face issues with employment because of mistakes they've made in the past. And also there tends to be, from time to time, a bit of rift or disconnect between law enforcement and community members. So this question is the first one, and Dr. Malone, you're up first. So the first question is, how do you handle the increase in violence and property crime in District 5? And what is your plan to adequately train and staff areas of District 5 with community-oriented police officers? And how would you implement programs in District 5 that are alternatives to arrest and incarceration?
Thank you. With regard to crime, couple things. Number one, that I've always advocated for more law enforcement on the street. This is necessary. When I was walking in the area that I grew up in, you have individuals, 65-year-old women who have been thrown to the ground and they're chain snatched. You had people, a young man who had his child in his hand and a gun put to his head for his cell phone. We need more law enforcement officers around all of City Miami. And we need to make sure that we have the revenue to put law enforcement officers on these streets, not in their cars, on the street. We need to have that. And I want to work with the city manager and the chief of police to make sure that we address that. But also, there needs to be a responsibility for the parents. Now, hear me now. You all, the parents, got to take responsibility for your kid. This has to happen. As commissioner, I can't be parent. There's no program in the commission that's going to make me responsible for your kid, for your young black male, for your young Hispanic male. You got to address it. And if that kid is doing something, you got to address him. In my household, there's no excuses for my nephew. None. He can't do crime. He can't be bad in school because I have the responsibility for showing him an example of what a real man is. So parents got to step up, law enforcement have to step up, and the community has to step up. Thank you.
I kind of want to follow up briefly on some of the things you said, if you don't mind, Doc. And I would agree. Parents do need to have more active roles in the lives of the youth to ensure that we have safer streets in this community. So what I will say is that, have you thought of any plans, any programs, any initiatives that we can implement as a district to kind of address the parenting issues that you feel, no, this is cool, and we're giving them 30 seconds to this. One of my moderator rules that I'm going to go in there. So I'll give you 30 seconds to reply to that, all right?
And I'm glad you asked that. One thing we do not need to reinvent the wheel. We have a multitude of programs. How many people know that? A multitude of programs. We have diversion programs, juvenile programs, all those. And we put all this money in these programs. Again, we can't reinvent the wheel. We have to be more responsible in our communities. Law enforcement officers have to have more law enforcement officers on the street patrolling these streets. We have to do our job. The crime in this community does not happen. It does not need to happen. Thank you. I'm sorry. Apologize.
Just with a little rebuttal. Brother Harden.
I represented a young adult who was a parent, and he did, with the same passion that Mr. Malone has, he beat his children, and they charged him with child abuse, felony. And what that tells me is that sometimes the state attorney's office doesn't agree with how we used to do things. See, we have to stop looking backwards and start looking forward. And when you look forward, the things that you need to help address those problems are things like this. You need diversion programs. So when young people get arrested for things like shooting a spitball at school, because that's what they get arrested for, and they charge them with a third-degree felony, it's called throwing a deadly missile. You see, that doesn't need to be a crime. So what we have to do is make sure they move into those programs so they don't have records and they can vote and they can move forward and be productive people in our society. That's what we need, right? What we need, when we talk about police officers, see, police officers need to be safe too, right? It's not just this community. Because my mother has been a police officer for the city of Miami for 19 years. And when she walks into someone's drug hole, she's all by herself, 5'4" and all. So we need more police officers to make sure not only the community is safe, but that officers come home to their families at night. Because they are our warriors. They are the people that stand on the front line and protect us. They deserve that. Same thing goes for everything else that we have that's public safety initiated. And when I worked at the juvenile department at the public defender's office, where I was representing these young children arrested for silly things, we, like I did, need to go to our schools and teach them constitutional law. Teach them their rights. More programs like that, that touch our kids, and people like Empower Youth. Because that's what they need. And most of all, they need examples of young, talented, professional people doing it first. Thank you.
safety is something that we all treasure and that we all need and want to have. I think about some of the things that I've already done in terms of my life skill and work experience. And one of the things that I did early on in my career while working for the Miami-Dade Housing Agency was to bring in what's called drug elimination grants into the housing development. $17 million a year that was funded for two things. One, to teach community-oriented policing, and the second, for youth programs to help give kids and young people things that they could do as opposed to getting into all kinds of difficult situations. While there, when we had those drug elimination dollars, $17 million a year, crime in Scott Holmes, Liberty Square, and Edison Court dropped by 17%. Violence dropped because kids had opportunities, police learned how to police differently. Now, we can hire 1 million police. And no disrespect, because I think that police ought to be able to come home safe for sure. But we can police differently. We don't have to go about thinking that police with this violence on violence. That's what happened in Overtown. We had a situation where police thought that they had to react with the same kind of violence. It doesn't have to be that way. Community-oriented policing understands that police should have relationships with those communities that they police. That you just don't believe you gotta beat up the people who you work for. And neighbors have to understand that it's a relationship between both of us. We can do this. It's been done before. We don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Now, as I mentioned earlier, the rules are that the first person to respond to the question does have a 1-minute rebuttal. Now, you also have the option to defer that. Do you want to say anything else on the topic, Brother Malone? I'm sorry, Dr. Malone. And again, I'm doing this for everybody, so hold me to this.
The only thing I would agree with the fact that we have to have more community policing. That goes without saying. But again, when individuals in the community take care of the responsibility of things that happen in the community, this whole no snitch law or whatever's going on, everybody has to address these problems. This is something we have to make sure our communities identify what's going on in the community and make sure that it's addressed. Thanks. That's it.
And for folks that don't know, our fourth candidate just walked in, Reverend Richard Dunn. Welcome, sir. We're actually on the second round of questions now, which is cool. We're right here in time for the second question, so we'll give you a chance to address the group. Now, the definition of politics essentially is like, determining who gets what, when, where, and why. And we know in District 5, for lack of better words, it's been a hot seat when it comes to determining who gets what, when, where, and why, unfortunately. So my next question, and we're going to start with Brother Hardman, is what is your plan for City of Miami procurement process with regards to future development and purchasing of projects in District 5 that will help to create local jobs for District 5 residents? And obviously you all know we are, if any community in Miami-Dade County, or better yet, the City of Miami is in need of economic development, it is us. So with that said, Brother Hardman, you now have the floor.
The first thing is transparency, right? We need to know where money is coming from and where it is going, right? We need to be able to see those monies trickle in and flow out. So, once that money is there, my vision for this community is like this. Think about what's happening in Overtown. The CRA is pumping hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars into that community. But now let's move into areas that are also impoverished, that need the help, or development that needs the help. When you see Biscayne Boulevard, Let's have that on 7th Avenue. So when you drive and you get off I-95 on 62nd Street, you see thriving businesses, small businesses, like with black men and with Spanish people and white people like Mr. Green, who had a shoe store for 50 years in this community. Because let me tell you something, once you have businesses on the main corridors in this community, people will stop to shop at them.
That's true.
And once you have businesses in this community that are small businesses, they will hire 5 there, 7 there, and 10 another. And when you do that, you improve the unemployment rate. And when you do that, people buy homes in the neighboring communities. You see, when you elevate the status of that community by improving upon this commercial corridor, you uplift the community itself. Because that's the lifeblood of the community. The ability to have a job and put food on your table. So that's my vision for our community. Some of it.
All right, just continuing to follow in order. Representative, will you up next?
Let me first of all say, is it working? No. Let me first of all say that I apologize. I thank you for not being here at 7. I was at Better Way, one of the places that I used to work, and that's the kind of guy that I am. Al Crespo, I'm a grassroots guy. That's why I can go anywhere in this neighborhood. I live in the hood. I live down the street from the PSUs. I live in Liberty City. I've lived in the district longer than any person in Liberty City directly and owns a house and don't have to worry about anything because people know that Richard Dunn cares. So in answering the question, what I would do is focus on public safety. That's a key factor. We have to make sure that our residents are safe. What has been happening in Buena Vista West and different parts of the community cannot be tolerated. We cannot afford to allow innocent people to have their blood shed, whether it's somebody's son or daughter. We have to be tough on crime. I believe once you establish a strong public safety where it's balanced, where people understand, again, if the police chief does not have an understanding of the community like the past Chief Exposito, like I fought him, then you have to fight to get rid of him. I believe that translates into business. I believe businesses translates into jobs. That's where it's at. We need economic development. We need to make sure that first and foremost that this place is safe, and right now it isn't.
All right. Ms. Collier. Yes.
Okay. You know, I love how government uses big words, procurement. Procurement. Y'all know what procurement means, right? It's like how you give away the money, all right? That's what procurement means. The one thing that the city does have is a pretty good procurement or giving away the money policy and plan. The thing is, nobody knows who gets it because nobody ever sees it until it is already gone. All right, so I believe in transparency. I truly believe in transparency. And one of the things that I promise you, and this is a show-enough promise, because I work for the Children's Trust where transparency, I swear, if y'all ever been to the trust, there is nothing but glass all over the place. So if you're having a bad day at the trust, you have to smile because guess what? Everybody is looking because they can all see you. But to me, transparency means that you have what the expenses are, who gets it, who got what, how much they got, where it went, and all kinds of balances. And that will be online, okay, listen, online for everybody to see. There won't be any guessing about what has to, who got what and when. The second thing that I think is critical to a procurement policy is that right now we have no system, or there is no system in place, at least at the CRA, for how you appeal anything. If there is an appeal, guess what? There is no appeal. It's over. What's done is done, and that's it. Not you, Reverend Dunn.
That's all right.
The with regard to the procurement process, as you all know, that they get a lot of bids. As I understand, about 15 to 20 bids, they choose about 3, okay? And there's been some, I guess there's been some problems with how that bid process is opened up. That it needs to be expanded. People need, as Ms. Collier had said and others had said, it needs to be transparent. And once it's transparent, we can have more people that involved in the process, minority individuals who provide goods, and when they provide goods, they provide jobs. As commissioner, I will go through the city manager, because there's always laws associated with how you communicate to other departments. I will go through, follow the law, and I will make sure that we have these bids more open, more expanded, so that individuals within the community have an opportunity to bid for them. Thank you.
A 1-minute rebuttal, Brother Hartman.
You know, glass walls don't get you transparency. It just doesn't. Transparency comes about when people honor the processes that there are for procurement. So let me give you an example of one process that was not honored, the CRA. You had a procurement process, right? A bid process where there was an organization that came on number 1. And then that organization was forced to negotiate with the number 2 bidder. Won it fair and square. You see, there was a process that was not followed. So what happens when that happens? You see, we need to codify these procurement processes. We need to provide punishment for those that go outside to make sure that their friends and their countrymen get what they need before we move forward in our community to do something positive. That's what transparency is all about. And that's what procurement is all about. And most of all, when we're required to do something, such as file a financial statement, we should do it. We should do it. Because when you don't do it, you pull the wool over this community's eyes. And we'll talk more about that.
Now, for this next question, I'm just going to go over the rules again, Reverend Dunn, because you weren't here when we started. But you're going to start this next question, and after everyone goes, you're going to get a chance to have a 1-minute rebuttal at the end of everyone's response, okay? All right, so moving on to the next question this evening. And I keep using the word unfortunately because given the potential that exists in District 5, it is unfortunate that certain things does exist within this community. But we know that District 5 has its fair share of eyesores. You know, we can use some beautification to this district. It's no reason why a community with such great people like those that exist in this room aren't really blessed with the community that we'll see along Biscayne and other areas of the city of Miami. So this next question is focusing on just that. So what is your plan for a smart and effective way to beautify neglected areas of District 5 and maintain equity all across the district?
That's a very good question, and very simple answer to that is you want to empower the homeowners associations. You want to empower those groups to take pride in their communities. When neighborhoods begin to take, and some of it really starts with the neighbors. It has to start. As a district commissioner, I've served as commissioner, I worked with some of the residents in this area, and we went into the alleys. I mean, for hours. We found cars and trucks, and I was afraid I was going to find a body back there because it was so much debris. Those are the kinds of things that we need to do from neighborhood to neighborhood. The neighborhoods that are neglected, we've got to try to motivate people to be, to have some pride about where they live. Take care of their lawns. And then put the pressure on code enforcement to make sure that it's enforced. You know, give ample warnings and make sure that people have enough time to do what needs to be done. But once they don't, if they don't adhere, then there needs to be some type of penalty assessed to those individuals. So I believe that we need to start with our neighborhoods. We need to start with ourselves. The question is not what can the government or what can the city do for us. The question is what can we do for the city. We need to do a neighbor by neighbor, house by house, and the commissioner can help to facilitate that in the various neighborhoods and communities. Thank you.
Ms. Carter?
I walk, like I said, through the neighborhoods, I find that the neighbors tell me two things. Why do I have to live with so many abandoned homes and vacant lots in my neighborhood? Why can't the house either be torn down, boarded up, or sold to someone? Why can't we do something with all this vacant land that just sits for year and year after year? I spoke with a woman today who said that one house that she knows is owned by the city has been vacant and serves as we know what kind of house for the last 2 years. You know, I want to start there. Because I think that when people and when residents and neighbors have goals that are set that say, we're going to do something about these 8 vacant lots or these 5 abandoned homes that are in a certain area, that can be done. The second thing that I think is really important is we've got to have a thoroughfare in this district that really looks like it is a great place to hang out and do things and have fun where businesses thrive. I want our 62nd Street not to look like every 62nd Street all over the United States of America. Y'all know how, I'm not talking about 62nd, Martin Luther King Boulevard. I think it's criminal. I'm beginning to feel that this is.
I think she's being fair with her.
I don't know.
You just get into it.
I'm gonna go sit. I need a referee over here.
Dr. Malone.
I help you out. Help me, please.
I just want to echo some of the comments that was expressed. It is about going house by house, building by building. It's about people taking the responsibility for their neighborhoods. When I walked to some of the areas on 48th and Northwest 5th Avenue, there was a guy who was rehabbing his house, and it proved to be successful. When people see their house being rehabbed, they go ahead and they take care of their own house. It's about house by house, again, responsibility about the other neighbors to make sure that the neighborhood that they live in is worth living in and more viable. And also I want to echo the idea of our thoroughfares. Code enforcement, which as president of the Homeowner Association, I work with code enforcement, and we talk about these issues. Nuisance abatement, when they identify a house that has drugs in it, what they try to do is find out all information and at some point bulldoze the particular house. We need to go through the city manager. I want to sit in his office every single day at 10 a.m. I get too many complaints from people saying that code enforcement is not doing their job. Nuisance abatement is not doing their job. I will sit in his office at 10 a.m. every single day and complain and complain and complain until this area looks like any other area in District 5. That's my promise to you. Thank you.
I think that District 5 has done enough complaining in this community for all of us, right? It's about time for action. So what does the action look like? Well, the first thing is this. When I was walking today in this community, I ran across a young man that had a lawn service. And he asked me, Mr. Hardeman, how can I get my lawn service going? And as I stood in the street and I looked at all the different vacant lots, I looked at a lot of the homes that were city-owned and some that were not. And I saw that all of them needed their grasses to be cut. That's a young man that you can match a job to a need. And that's what we need in our community. See, our city needs to start allocating these contracts to these small business people that want to beautify our community, because that's what he wants to do in his backyard. So if we can, one, do that, right? Two, put code enforcement on their jobs. Put liens on the property that were not on your homes, but on the homes that have been neglected.